Welcome to Raising the Bar, a podcast giving no bullshit marketing advice for Aussie business owners. Expertise takes experience, and that's why we tell stories from lived experience to deliver marketing that raises the standard of what Aussie business owners should expect.
We're back with another episode of Raising the Bar. Hello, Mel.
Hey, maybe.
How are you today?
I'm solid. Just got off a plane.
Good. All right, we'll crack straight into it so you can go home and sleep soon. Today we are talking about what to hire first, a sales or a marketing position. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've seen this a lot before. Put yourself in the mindset of a small to medium business owner. They're ready to expand the team, whether they go first for a marketing or a sales position. If they pick wrong, it can cost not just money but a lot of time and kind of make you fear that you can't grow. I think you've seen this play out over the last 20 years, but also experienced this yourself. So can you kind of why do people go wrong here? And I think you have a bit of a framework you're going to work through today.
Yeah, so there's probably three questions that help frame it really well for business owners. But in a first instance, I think where we all start is what's the thing I'd probably like to do least? And the ongoing cycle of trying to bring revenue in is just an anxiety for small business owners every time. And, you call it the business owner roller coaster. You win heaps of work. You're like, brilliant. You go, oh, shit, I've got to resource the work and I've got to hire. And then, all right, I've got all these salaries. I've got to win the work. And that once you start getting to a tempo where that's not the big roller coaster that it was, it's a much nicer, it's a much nicer world. But I think that we're probably looking at that framework a little bit incorrectly in terms of what's the resource I don't like doing the most. For me, I've always liked sales, which has been okay. So for me, it's probably more the operations role, but certainly fallen into the trap of, hiring a salesperson and not having things quite right at the right times, and can remember those very early days, sort of, 13, 14 years ago, starting my first business and feeling that. So yeah, good question. But yeah, there's a bit of a framework that does go around it.
Yeah, so let's crack into it. What are the when you go with this framework, what are the questions you need to be asking, and how are you, where do you start? Yeah,
so at the core of what we're looking for is, have you got leads that are sitting there? Mm-hmm. And if the answer is no, you probably have a marketing problem, pretty obviously. Mm-hmm. And in terms of a sales problem, it's are you taking too long to get back to the inquiries that you do get in or referrals that you get through? So are you just taking too long to get there? Then you've probably got a sales problem. Yeah. And then if you don't have either of those things, or it's just a little bit random, then you've got a process problem. And so what we find more often than not is that we'll walk into a place when someone's either trialed a business development role, and that business development role, often the company comes to us at that point, and they come to us and they're like, oh, so I've just hired Ben, and he's come in, and he just needs some things to be able to do his job. And then Ben comes in and he has every excuse under the sun to not do his job. No one knows what the brand is. There's just no inbounds coming in. I have no collateral to take to my sales meeting, and suddenly you've hired a 120 plus commissions, probably a car, phone sales resource who you sort of thought would take the problem away from you, and then they're suddenly needing to spend another 20 grand on marketing just to be prepared and walk into a meeting with a capability statement. Right? I see that so often that BD kind of requests the marketing, and it's really sad, because how that ultimately eventuates and how we see it the most is that the BD person will ultimately frustrate the business owner, and the business owner gets to a mindset in the end of, I did it myself before, I can probably do it again, which isn't a bad thing. Been there myself as well. And then, you're back at this pathway where you've probably invested 20, 30, 40,000, 50,000, depending on how long you've had someone in the role. And they've made contact with people, and now it's a bit awkward, and that nurture hasn't followed on from that. So that's the first one. So do you have the leads to feed a marketing person? The other one is then the leads to feed a salesperson. So if the answer is that you don't have that brand, you don't have the resources and the toolkits that a salesperson would need, then look to marketing first. Establish that stuff. And for you, know that if you had to process your role as the business owner salesperson, have you actually got it all down pat so that you could hand it to someone easily? Second piece would be around I have the leads coming in. So what does that look like? I think probably after about 4 or 5 years in business, my personal experience was we started getting loads of referral. So that really tough part at starting a business, I think the first 3 years where I'm cold calling and cold dropping and trying to win business and you don't exist, and you're certainly not going to win on, search engine optimization and pay per click because you're new to the market. You haven't been around and have that established history. About 5 years in, you're suddenly getting lots of referral and people are coming to you, and previously great response times getting back to everybody. And then suddenly you're like, well, I'm not able to do this. And there's leads coming in that I'm not giving the time and looking after and following the process I know that's important. And that's when you go, okay, it's probably time for me to find that beautiful BDM/account manager. And obviously we've talked about the 2 different roles there to be able to help me with those. And the last is you don't really have either. And what we see is there's not leads coming in. And that might not be marketing leads necessarily. It might be you don't have any outbound BD or marketing elements happening. You don't have campaigns running for someone to follow up. But at the same time, there's no process when an inbound inquiry comes in. There's no idea of, when I should quote, the questions I should ask. And that's, you don't have process. And so we probably see that most places are, and most businesses are, we don't have process. And we'd say, well, before you do either, let's just actually have a look at documenting what you would like it to be like as a business owner. Because inevitably, you're going to be a bit fussy and annoying, as you would have experienced with someone I know. Yeah.
Well, I think you just have high standards when it's your baby, right? Your business. So really understanding the problem first before you look to hire. Where are you what gap are you bridging?
Yeah. So I think if you hire first, you're essentially just buying a more expensive version of diagnosing the problem because you spend all the money to realise, shit, I just needed to put the process together. Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and people, if they come in, a salesperson comes in and they feel like they don't have that marketing support, that would be hard as well, right? So you might get a great salesperson, which can be really hard now, and if they come in and don't feel it, then they might not last anyway.
Yeah, I think for a sales, there are gun salespeople out there. But I think you find, so I think there's great BDs that get you in the door. I guess the most recent one I can think of is a salesperson usually comes with a good teledex, in the old terms, it's what you used to keep your business cards in. I think I might have used to have one actually, which is a little bit embarrassing, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll come with a teledex and it's all bloody action for month 1 and 2. And I think a lot of business owners will resonate with this. And they're out on the road and they're away and they're coming in and they're chatting to you because they won't actually document anything or put anything in the CRM system you give them. They'll just come and chat to you right at the beginning and give you all the great conversations that are happening, that they're having. And then probably about month 3, month 4, things go a little bit quiet. And then they're saying, I couldn't close that because they didn't know who we were, or we lost that to a competitor because, they said our website just didn't make us look big enough. And that's the furphy that we see. So I think that would be the most common thing that most small business owners would make the mistake of. You think you're getting a gun, they're going to go out there, you're going to be able to teach them all about what your business is like, and you think you can let them loose. But in fact, that's not exactly what happens.
Oh, that sounds awful. So quite often can get it wrong. People in that early stage.
I think if you can set up the process for or what a process looks like for a salesperson is if you break it down a little bit, is what do you want them to ask or figure out in those first initial calls? So this isn't like documenting a crappy process and, hey, we've got AI now, so you can probably push it in there. But what do you want them to establish to have a criteria for the first phone call that they go, is it a good lead or not? So as you would know, when you first started with us, I was very clear on that kind of work is tire kicker. This is an ideal client. This is what we're looking for. This stuff will lead you down. You will quote all day. We'll win it in tiny trickle projects. It's not what we want, right? So that was the first criteria. They're looking to replace a marketing manager. That's what we want to be bidding on. Don't want these little projects around the edges. They just take a lot of time. So what's the criteria just to go, yep, we're going to have the next conversation or not? And then what's the criteria and the questions you ask before you quote? So having questions that'll be like, what's your budget? Who are we competing against? Are you ready to go for this now? If I write you a proposal today, will you go for it? Are you the person that's authorising this, or is there someone else in the business that's authorising it? And knowing that all those questions are answered. So it's probably 2 or 3 things that would really guide them. And then how are they going to document that? How does the sales cycle work? These are the tools that you have, and you shouldn't need anything else around the edges. So going, no, this is what you have to work with. You've got a capability statement, the website's where it's at. These are the clients that we could use as reference clients. I've got them documented. So having that stuff structured is what we mean by process. This isn't some drawn out thing. It's just going, yep, I'm really clear. So when they come with a question like, oh, I've just been asked to bid, but he said he's never heard of us and he wants a reference client that's in the same industry, you're not all running around scrambling for it. You've got a list of 10 reference clients ready to go and you prepare them before a BDM would start with you. That's what I mean by process. I guess it's more just documentation of how you do things.
Yeah, so documenting the process should be done well and truly before you start the hiring process.
Yeah, so don't do the admin after you've made an offer. And a great example of that, I mean, if you look back, you're with us just over a year, about a year and a half, fair bit over a year. How long were you with me on every meeting that I looked at every proposal before I let you loose to do it yourself?
Ooh. Oh, it was, oof. What do you reckon, 9 months?
Yeah. So it was
9 months for most meetings, unless it was a small, like, I think it was a slow
gradual incline,
a gradual decrease in you being involved. But I would say, yeah.
Yeah. And actually that's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
More importantly, so you got to ask yourself a few questions. One is that you're an emergency department pharmacist. I didn't have incredible expectations of you understanding the product, right? You were just really smart and incredibly, charismatic, and you understand, you ask beautiful questions, and you're never going to sell the wrong thing to someone that doesn't need it. That's what mattered the most. And so it was about training you on the product and what to look for and what to actually use to help a client. And that probably I expected to take 12 months. I think I told you 12 months and you exceeded expectations and did it in 9. But I would suspect that that's probably what it needs to be. But I had really firm rules for you that I could give you. These are the questions you have to have answered before you write a proposal. This is what someone we don't want to work with looks like, and this is what someone that does want to work, we do want to work with looks like, right through to the end of how many times we might do an iteration. We're very of a proposal that is, we're very clear on our dickhead clause and what that looks like. And one of your key roles in this organisation is to protect our beautiful staff in many ways from people who aren't really going to provide the right service. So you have to learn those things. Those things were documented, but on the whole, it wasn't about you being just like me, because that's never going to happen. It was you understanding what it looks like and then turning it into something you were comfortable to pitch and something you were comfortable to present. And the thing I think is most important is you have to fall in love with the product. And it was important I probably did those deals up front with you so you could see us deliver the outcome and the happy clients to go, oh, this is good. Because if you believe in it, you sell it genuinely, which matters. So I think that time with a salesperson is incredibly important and something that a business owner discounts most of the time. They think they can hire them and they get out on the road. No, you're probably on the road with them. You can get them to get the meetings and open the door if that's what you hate. But
do all the admin after.
Yeah, but and do all the admin, but be in the room with them for those first however long the meeting, 6 months of the meetings, because there's so many variations of what you sell. Now, of course, we're probably talking a lot B2B stuff here, or very customized things. I think, if we sold sprockets, you wouldn't need to necessarily have me in the same room selling the sprockets with you, because one sprocket and the other sprocket are the same. But I think that's a fair thing that most business owners forget, is be in the room for those first pitches. You might not get the meeting, but be in the room and train. Let them hear you pitch in your passion.
Oh, I think it goes such a long way having that, and I just knowing that really clearly where you can get caught wasting time is huge in sales, because you can waste time in sales so easily. And then also that you're trying to have someone take over marketing, right? Like, you're going to try and hand that over to them, and they're going to try to take it off your plate. And I feel like when you don't have the foundations right in that role, you keep hitting roadblocks, right? And I think it was so easy. By the time I was taking over things and doing things independently of you, I didn't want you involved. I felt like I could do it really quickly myself. Oh, I still bring you into certain things. Like, that goes without saying. There's certain clients that I think you're more appropriate to go in and do it. But I think it's a nice way to be able to take over then, and you kind of merge what they've taught you. You feel comfortable both ways. Yeah, actually, there's a point in that that is important to raise, and it kind of comes back to that point too, where BD sort of steps back into marketing. And something we see so often is people hire a salesperson, and then that salesperson's busy sitting at a computer still, like buggering around in,
in a Microsoft application trying to produce a capability statement because they don't have the assets and they take it upon themselves to try and be the marketer. And I think, in your experience, it was very much so, if you need anything from the team, this is who you request it from. This is your marketing team. Do not interfere with it. I will make sure it's approved and appropriate for you. But other than that, you're not a marketer. You're in a team for this. So real role clarity. We've talked around a role scorecard before and the KPIs that you set. And there's previous episodes on SQLs as sales targets for sales and MQLs as sales targets for marketing. So I won't go into that again. But that's a big folly. So people hire this person, they expect to be knocking on doors, but they don't give them a list and they think they're coming with their teledex and all of that happens. And that's when you do need to do your marketing first and make sure that they've actually got something to do. They're following up on a campaign that you have. I think one of my favourite services that we have is we roll out a campaign for a client and then we do the phone calls for a client. So we do the phone calls and then we get them the meeting and then it's theirs from there. But that whole piece doesn't map together. So we can really replace that marketing BD function and then we go, cool, that's a marketing and a sales qualified lead. We've proven it. You can sit in that room or make that phone call to the person and then it's your product to sell from there and we believe in you. Go and get that done. And then we will listen to that phone call and then we'll often have some feedback for them if we think it could be better too. But, that's a great service because it's a very hard thing. I think in SMEs and SMBs, particularly in Western Australia, you kind of do need that hybrid role. And that hybrid role is pretty hard to get. If you're a great charismatic human out there that can knock on doors and build relationships, you probably don't love being behind a computer using Adobe. Not the same things. Might be able to do it with AI now. Might have more unicorns popping up here and there.
So Perth is a bit of a unique market. What do you see that's different here compared to other places?
Perth's really different because people just don't have to market in Perth sometimes. And they're very proud to tell me they don't need to market. Oh, your marketing never needed to market. No, they've been in business 20 years and they're doing really well. And that's true, but that's not marketing. That's reputation, which is a form of marketing. You've built reputation, but then you're in that unique thing where you've got inbound inquiry and then you've got a salesperson that probably still has to deal with it to grow. So I haven't done any outbound things necessarily, but or inbound, like I'm not doing pay-per-click advertising or I'm not putting social adverts out. I've never done any of that stuff, but I still get referral through. And there's plenty of businesses like that. But then when the leads and inquiries do come in, you've then got the salespeople where you still would want to have those questions. So where I would urge people is Perth small, you might have a inquiry engine because of reputation, which is great. Will it last forever? Because booms do end and boom cycles are very interesting in Perth, and we've spoken about that previously. But then do you actually still have that process for the salesperson? So what we see is a lot of quoting where you could have asked really good questions at the beginning and been more specific about the clientele you want, or quoting big full proposals up front because the sales team like to be busy versus going, here's some preliminary information, blah, blah, blah. If you're still keen, we're happy to have the next meeting. So that process part is still really important in sales, even if you never need to market. And I acknowledge there's people out there that will probably never need to do marketing in the form of the way we deliver marketing, and that's okay. I think from a Perth perspective, BD is incredibly hard to hire. We know we're in a resourcing shortage, and the best of the best often are snaffled by the enterprise businesses. I came out of the IT industry. I've got mates there who started in the same sort of vein as me, and they've gone on to head up divisions, but really they were sales, selling licensing, product, maintenance, and they've got salaries and commissions in the order of 500, 600,000 a year. And that's pretty bloody difficult for a small business to compete on, right? So I think the talent pool in Western Australia makes BD a little bit difficult. So the last one on the Perth specific is there's been lots of money floating around, and people have found opportunities in market. I think we've got a client you and me both know, and I just don't think he'd listen to the podcast, but I won't name him just in case, where he's found an opportunity in market and just doesn't want to spend a cent on marketing, but has gone and hired an incredibly expensive BD. And then that BD's kind of turned around and said, there's no reputation, I can't beat these people. And Perth, we're notorious for that, which is there's an opportunity, I've got one client, I'm going to go to market because they knew you and they did you a favour. But when you try to scale the business, there's no presence of marketing, there's no presence of company, there's no brand presence behind it. And that BD's job becomes incredibly difficult. And then they come back to marketing afterwards and you're like, well, yeah, you probably needed to invest a little more upfront. And when people Google your business name in the city that you're in, you kind of do need to show up. So that's when you said take SEO out of the quote. that's what it is. You can't have a one-page website and try and sell multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar contracts. It kind of doesn't work that way. So they're the little Perth things that I think are a bit different.
Yeah. Mel, you sometimes talk on another problem where it's the founder actually doing both marketing and the BD sales. What about that?
Well, that's the easiest trap and one I've, slid into many, many a time. The questions are still valid from a sort of framework, which is, do you get leads in easily? In which case, if you absolutely hate selling, keep doing the marketing part and see if you get the leads in. And if you love being on a phone, and then I think this more sits to me, ironically, I run a marketing business, but if you love being in a client meeting, you actually love the proposing and the pitching and knowing what you can do for the client, then lean towards more the sales part. But we do find ourselves, and when you're small and you can't afford it, you find yourself going through the bump. And that's why I said to you, most businesses are in a hybrid. And that's when, we need to be at that point where we're asking ourselves the question, which one is it first? And we usually go back to what do we naturally do? And what I want to just reiterate again, document it while you can. Like, don't be in such a busy state that you don't go, why do I do that well when I close? Now you could ask the client, can I have Otter on? And you hear the way you pitch and you can, record that back to a sales staff member you might have. But from marketing, that's such a marketing point of view is most small business owners would come to us because they need inquiry and leads in. Just let the marketers do what they do best, but give them really clear objectives of what you need them to achieve. And then actually do something with the leads that you get given. Not every marketing qualified lead is going to result in a deal, but pull your numbers together and start to understand if you're able to convert some of them. And if you're not converting any of them, is there a sales problem with you as well? There can be on the other side.
Yeah, I do definitely think it was nice being trained by a founder who actually loved sales. I think it does help.
There's we follow the practice of metronome, like that business philosophy, and Shannon Susko was over in Perth through a business group that I'm in and delivered sort of what's the role of the founder once a business gets big and it scales. And it always sticks with me is that you become the coach and the mentor. Like, you shouldn't be in day to day. You should consider yourself more of sort of that board member role. You get your reports, you run your frequency of meetings, you make sure you've got your meeting cadence right. But your role to the people is not to be out there making sure you deliver and you're in front of the clients. It's actually to sit with the people and make sure they understand the passion and they deliver it in the same way as you. And I'm not perfect at that. We're not big enough, right? But I have that as the ultimate objective. And I think the most important roles to make sure that they get so much time with you are your sales team, and you train them well, and your customer service or your front end customer service team. So your account managers or, your customer service team that answer the phone, make sure they really understand what it is they should be asking, what should they be clarifying, and they get that from you as a founder, or you're on a good track if you can offer that.
Yeah, it does make a huge difference, I think. So what are your key takeaways for today?
So from a takeaway perspective, you want to probably look back over about 3 months data, about 90 days worth of data, and have a look at how many leads or MQLs you got through in that 3 months. And every number is going to be appropriate. If we got 10 leads a month, that's exceptional. So if we got sort of the 30 leads over 3 months, that's really, really good for us. We'd be more than happy. We have a really high close rate. So that would be great. So you need to determine what's right for your business. So if you said on an average, I'm going to close 50% of these, and then you average that out at the right amount of deal, how many MQLs would you need and did you get them? If you got them, you don't have a marketing problem, right? So then the next thing you look at is, okay, of these leads, what was our percentage of close rate? And I would want that to be sub 40%. Our close rate's upwards of 80. I think you're actually sitting at very high. I think you might be in the 90s as of today. Actually, very good deal that you won on the way home, right? We wean out a lot up front and we quote on what we want, but that's still a great close rate. So if you're sub 40% on your close from those MQLs and pushing them through to quoting and SQLs and then closing the deal, I think you might have a sales problem. Like, you as the founder might actually not be very good at closing. I think you're better at closing than me, interestingly. I probably have a little bit more like empathy and I can help them out here and do these things, and you're just better at it than me. And then lastly is your time to response date. I think that's a really important one. We've got a lot of clients screaming at us like, oh, we need more leads in. And we're like, it took you 14 days to respond to those leads that are coming in. You don't need more leads. You need to get back to leads when they're hot, right? And make sure you're on top of them. So those three things are important. Just have those numbers and mark today as the day that you go, these are our benchmark numbers, this is ground zero, and where should I start? I've got loads of leads coming in. I'm not getting back to them in time. I don't have enough leads coming in. I need to ramp up marketing. And how long does it take me to get back to and beautifully respond and close out an inquiry once it comes through? If you do that work, you know where you're starting and you know which part of the framework to use first.
Sounds great.
Just get to work.